Hello, viewers. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of Let's Talk About It, a talk show by the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, where we talk about the facts, the myths, and the laws on sexual and gender-based violence. I remain Kudai Oluwatobi, and with me here, I have
Oyin Consola Momo.
We are your co-hosts for today's talk show. So sit up and enjoy the show.
Welcome to today's episode. It's a packed episode because we're talking about healing and coping for survivors.
Yeah.
It's all about support systems, counseling, and generally mental health services. And today we have an expert. Well, as usual, we have experts on the show. So we have a consultant psychiatrist and a lecturer at LASUTH. Her name is Dr. Gbonjubola Babalola-Abiri. Thank you for joining us on the episode today.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Okay, let's talk about counseling. Do all survivors need counseling?
So the answer is no. And while that may sound rather harsh and difficult to understand, not everyone who goes through a traumatic experience embodies the trauma or lives with the consequences of the trauma. However, to decide whether or not an individual will need counseling services is largely dependent on, one, the individual, two, their experience, three, the innate resources and skills that they have. Yes. And of course, very importantly, the support systems that they have around them. And so while we can use the term trauma rather loosely, again, research is beginning to show that trauma is not necessarily what happens to you, but what you do with what happens to you.
So I heard something very related to that. Someone said trauma is not what happens to you, it's what it left with you.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
So that is what it means. Please go ahead.
So what you do with what happens to you, because again, quite a number of people who go through traumatic experiences, the experiences are different. For some individuals, it's what we call a process trauma. And so quite a number of times what you find is that people who have gone through abuse have gone through what is known as a process trauma. It's continuous. It's not something that just happened once and stopped. And quite unfortunately, it also happens with a significant number of trusted individuals who the individuals, would never have thought or imagined that could do that kind of thing to them. Then, of course, when you look at the resources that each person has, you look at, soft skills like the skill of resilience, being able to cope in spite of adversity. Life has adversity. Life has painful and difficult moments, but not all of us are able to wrap our heads around it because we're, praying and hoping and wishing that it will never be us. But when it does show up, the skills that you have within you to hold yourself through that part are part of, the resources that you need to cope. And then, of course, support systems, which is what quite a number of, significant number of survivors lack. And support is not just financial, because, most times people look at the problem and say, if I throw money at it, everything will be okay.
Sorted,
Yes, however, people need emotional support, very significant, to remind them that they are not alone on their journeys and that they need people to walk them through it. So to answer your question very simply, not everyone will require support, but of course we need to individualize the individual to see whether or not this person will need.
And that's where assessment comes in, right?
Definitely. An assessment, that is individualized and tailored and customized to meet the individual's needs will be able to tell whether or not we need to go further with this client, whether we need to look out for this client, or if this client is able to cope with what they've gone through.
So I have two follow-up questions. The first one is, you talked about innate skills. Can you identify some of these skills?
So innate skills are what I would refer to as soft skills. They're learned over time. They're not skills that you have or do not have. They're skills that you understand that, well, they are necessary for survival in life. Usually I would call those skills the skills of care, communication. Sometimes people just generally feel like, because I can talk and you can talk, it means that I can communicate effectively, but not necessarily so. Then there's the skill of assertiveness, being able to say no and not feeling like you need to explain why you need to say no. holding, saying what you mean, meaning what you say, holding strong.
Yeah.
And being able to set boundaries, not allowing people to come into your space just anyhow. Then, of course, you have the skill of resilience.
Yes.
Resilience, again, is about being able to cope in spite of adversity, understanding that tough times will come, they will show up, but how do I respond when those tough moments come?
Yeah.
Then, of course, there's the big skill of emotional intelligence, which has, quite a lot of things inside it as well. But emotional intelligence clearly has to do with understanding your own emotions, regulating your own emotions, but also being able to cater to the emotions of other people as well. So, simply put, I'll tell you that the soft skills that are important for, for being able to cope in life, yes, and being able to heal and being able to deal with difficult and traumatic experiences would be the soft skills of care.
Wow.
So these skills serve as a buffer when adversity comes. So
Yes.
people that have these skills, we can say it is likely that they are able to recover faster than people that don't.
Also, what I would say is that those skills pretty much ground you.
Okay.
They center you. They serve as an anchor. So, for instance, when the storms will come,
Always.
and when storms come, what centers the ship sometimes is that you're able to steady your anchor. And so, yes, they serve as anchoring or grounding skills. They help you be in touch with reality. They help you be self-aware and understand that you need to self-regulate to go through whatever challenges that life may bring your way. They're not easy. Again, it's not as easy as I'm saying it. And, people need to learn them. People need to sometimes unlearn them and relearn them. But most importantly, people need to be open and willing to understand that when difficult challenges come, without these skills, I may drown. It may be the difference between drowning and being able to stay afloat.
Wow. So I like to be in people's shoes. I like to understand their perspective. So, and that would make me ask this question: how? I know viewers out there will be asking, how do I know I have the skill? Yeah.
Okay. So, to know whether you have those skills or not takes a level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And before you become self-aware, then you must know yourself. So I usually say Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers of all times, would say that man, know thyself. Man, woman, know thyself, because it is in the knowing of yourself that the best will emerge. So know yourself. Get in touch with yourself. Be able to ask yourself open, honest, and fearless conversations. Have those conversations with yourself. Who am I? What's going on with me? How am I feeling? What's making me feel a certain way? Quite a number of people are not in tune or in touch with themselves. They don't even know what they're feeling. And unfortunately,
they're just living the life.
Just rolling.
Rolling,
yeah. Rolling.
Introspection.
A lot of deep introspection is required, largely because as humans and especially as Nigerians, one of the biggest defense mechanisms that we use is what is known as denial. Madam, your blood pressure, do you know your blood? I reject
God
it.
forbid.
So it's not my question. God, yeah. So
It's not in my family. I will start it.
Yeah, it don't start for me.
So people need to be able to sit with themselves and get comfortable with obstacles, get comfortable with things that you may not even like because you have a goal and you understand that facing your greatest fears might actually be the first step that you need to take on your healing journey.
Okay, so how do you identify individuals that need mental health support?
So when I'm asked that question, the first thing I always say is sometimes you may never know. And you may never know because a lot of people are hiding behind masks. And so when they say this is not my real face.
Yeah.
So sometimes
A lot of people are walking around without their real faces.
they are. People are struggling, but they're not, they're not showing their struggles on their faces. And it brings to fore the conversation on, it's still being debated on whether or not there's a topic called maxed depression or high functioning depression or smiling depression. I mean, fella once said suffering and smiling.
Yeah.
And so even though people were struggling, they didn't, come to terms with it. So sometimes you may honestly never know. Because people are able to function even through all of those challenges
issues,
that they're going through. But sometimes you may know. And
Bringing
for you
it down to LGBT survivors now.
So again, you need to have a high index of suspicion. Pay attention. So before you pay attention to someone else, you must also know your own self.
Yeah.
You must know that this other person there's a deviation from the norm. What is the norm for this person? When this person wakes up in the morning, this is what they do, this is where they go, this is how they talk. When I call them, this is how they respond. When I say something to them, when you start to see differences in even relationships, how they converse, is this person isolating? Are they withdrawing? Do they prefer to keep their own company? Do they appear to be enjoying their own company? Are these people, overly suspicious? Are they uncomfortable in certain, companies, or, say that they don't want to mix or talk to someone? And then they may actually verbalize their fears and their worries and their concerns. And when they do that, of course, they must not be invalidated. They must be made to feel like what you're saying is important and I must stop to listen to it. So sometimes it may be silence. Sometimes it may be set out in confusion because there's no clarity. And sometimes it may actually be brought out that, see, this is what is going on with me. I'm struggling. I'm going through this challenge. And sometimes, in this day and age, because things are morphed over time, you also find that people go on social media. And social media is like a big avenue to say that, oh, this happened to me. I have tried speaking to people. No one is listening to me. You get what I mean? And then sometimes some people may use cryptic messages.
Yes.
And may refer to someone else's experience. They may refer to their own experience.
Their own experience.
Yeah,
asking for a friend.
Like they always say, this is my guy. But sometimes we find out that the guy is actually the person involved. So we must be open and willing to listen even to the words that are unspoken. Because many times the words are unspoken. And then sometimes it's as simple as people cringe when you touch them. You touch their shoulders, or you say something that reminds them of their traumatic experience, and they just get all riled up.
The reaction becomes disproportionate to the actual event.
Yeah.
So usually that's what will happen in either an acute stress reaction or what is known as a PTSD, post-traumatic stress reaction, where we usually say that we have re-experiencing the individual, even though that traumatic experience is not happening in that moment. They re-experience some of the things in their minds, what has happened there. They avoid. So they may avoid, people, places, or processes that remind them of that traumatic experience. And the last is, they may deny, and they may also have what is known as a hyper-arousal. And so in situations or circumstances that may make that experience, they just go out of control. So they may start to scream, start to shout,
yell,
they may want to yell, throw things, or just get out of that environment at that point. And sometimes, of course, they cry. So people cry when they can't, when they can't express how they're feeling. They cry. They may write letters, including suicide notes. So these are some of the things that we can look out for.
You just broke down. There are plenty of people that experience this.
In fact, so
you're just walking on a Lagos road, and you just mistakenly tap someone. Are you mad? Is your father?
And then you be like, what have I done?
What is going on? Or road rage.
So
all of these things. So it means everybody needs rehabilitation.
Well, before they say we want to talk career, everybody, because not necessarily so. Not necessarily.
But yes, this is really good. Thank you for sharing that. Now going back to mental health services. Survivors of SGBV, a lot of them are financially dependent on others. And we know mental health services cost a lot.
They do. I won't deny that.
Yes. So now for survivors that need these services, what alternatives exist?
So I'm happy that you've highlighted that mental health support and services are expensive. But beyond the cost is the fact that the professionals to even provide the care are not that many. So enter in JAPA and everything that has happened with JAPA. However, what we're also realizing, and what the WHO did realize a few years ago, not specific to SGBV, but specific to mental health, is that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. And so the work is a lot, but the people to do the work are not that many. And so what the WHO did with what is known as the WHO GAP, the GAP action plan, is that they looked at the fact that the people who need mental health services are plenty. The people who will provide it are not that many. And so what we started to do then was to start to train other healthcare professionals to be able to support, in the provision of mental health. So even services. Up to, for instance, I am aware that in Lagos State, even up to the primary healthcare centers, they have, people who can cater to first responders and all of that. So it's important to empower people. A beautiful example of empowering people, I will take you to Zimbabwe, where there's this concept that is called the grandmother's bench, and where grandmothers were empowered. They were taught about mental health, taught about the signs, the symptoms, and what to look out for. And so whenever you see someone sitting on a bench, so they made these benches. And so whenever you see someone sitting on a bench, you know that
help.
exactly. And the grandmothers, full of wisdom, full of wit, and
my son.
Yeah. Or my daughter.
My
so
daughter.
The grandmothers were the tools that were used.
Yeah.
So we need to start to open up. Services are available, but they can be expensive.
Yes.
They may not be specialized. So another thing is you may also have specialists who are not trained in the provision of care for individuals who have been abused. They may have some training on trauma, but they may not have specific training on, sexual and gender-based violence.
Yeah.
So it's everybody's job. It's my work. I always there's a quote that I like that says that mental health is too important to be left to the professionals alone, and that mental health is everybody's business. That's
Mental
a quote.
health is everybody's
That's a quote by
business.
Professor Vikram Patel. So everybody needs to start to identify where they can come in. All hands must be on deck. No effort is too little. None is too much. However, it must be done right, so that people are equipped with the right skills and the right tools to support individuals. There are a couple of course, you'd hear toll-free lines, you'd hear, we do free mental health services, but the honest truth is that quite a number of these people need to be in therapy for a long time. So,
okay, now that you talked about therapy, when it comes to healing, right, we know there is a personal phase and there is a communal phase. We've talked a bit about the communal phase, but let's talk a bit about the personal phase right now. What are the things survivors need to do when it comes to healing?
So first of all, I'd say that survivors must be aware
Awareness.
that they need healing, or that first of all they are in a situation or a circumstance where they're struggling and they need help. And I always say this because quite a number of times when I sit with clients, what I see is I ask the question, so do you think you're in a domestically violent relationship? And they say, oh no, it doesn't beat me. And I'm like, okay.
Just
But by the
take
time you
this
start
in.
asking all the other questions, you see that this person is struggling. They're being emotionally abused, being verbally abused, probably sexually
Financial
abused.
deprivation,
exactly.
so many of them.
So many others. So people need to be aware. If awareness is getting half the problem solved. When you're aware, after you're aware, there's also a readiness. Are you ready?
Wow.
Again, to be
This is
honest,
so important,
you can't.
readiness.
Yeah,
You can't force
you can't
anyone.
force anyone, and healing looks different for everyone.
There's a Yoruba saying, they
That's-
said, Ọmọ kékeré tí ó fẹ́ bágbà lọ ló máa ṣípá sókè,
Exactly.
or something like that.
But it's also very important to help them understand and know that we see their pain, we understand their struggles,
Yeah.
and that we would wait. But again,
And whenever they're ready, we're
yeah,
here.
but sometimes, to be honest, it's important to seek help as early as you can. So it's important to also be, ready.
ready. So awareness,
Yes,
readiness.
awareness, readiness. But also very importantly is getting support from the right source.
Not just any
Not
source.
just anywhere. Not just anybody
Not
that
just
says,
the-
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think I know.
I think I know.
And you know how some people say, you don't need a therapist,
Yeah.
just come. You just need
Yeah.
people around you. Oh yeah, go and visit your uncle. Go and visit your auntie.
So it's very important to get support from the right sources. Otherwise, you'd be opening up something that, just spirals the person out of control. So it's also very, very important. And it's important to also lean into the power of community.
Yeah. This was my next question.
Well, so
What
you
is
want
the
to ask?
importance? What is the importance of community in healing?
Yes.
So we can't do life alone.
Social animals.
We all need
are.
people. Yes, we're social beings, and a lot of psychologists and sociologists have proven that
Yeah.
that we
Diablos
need
comes
people.
and
Yes,
like,
we
yeah.
need people. We all need other people. Even though life now, people are more likely to say, "Oh, I did it by myself. I write by myself."
Self-made.
Yeah, I'm self-made.
Nobody is self-made.
Nobody's
We all know
self-made.
that.
We all
No
need
man
someone.
can.
And so the
make
power of
an
community is so pivotal to healing, to the healing process, to the healing journey, and whether or not healing happens. When you have a community of like-minded individuals, so either people who have gone through the journey that you've gone through. Again, no two stories are ever the same.
Yeah.
But when you have a community, it gives you a sense of belonging.
Support group, eh?
Yes, I am not alone. Somebody else sees me. Somebody else understands what I've been through. It gives you a sense of purpose as well. We're doing something. We're going on a journey together. Our goal at the end of the day is to understand how this person has healed, what resources were available to this person, and all of that. It also, helps you get support resources. So sometimes when people journey alone, you know how they say when you walk alone, you can travel far. But when you walk with others, you can travel further.
Yeah.
You can get more resources. You can get more awareness and understanding and what you need to do per time. Then, of course, it opens the door to healing. Because after a while, you start realizing that this other person appears to be doing very well on their journey because they have opened up, to healing and to all of that. So support systems are necessary. They're pivotal. They're important. Again, you also need to be in the right support groups.
Yeah.
Where you don't feel like you're being judged, where you don't feel like you're being dismissed. Or that
There's no shame.
There's no shame. Seeking help or speaking up. There's connectedness, but there's help and support to hold your hand and move you on along your journey.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful illustration.
Okay, I have another question. I have so many questions, but I'm just picking the very important ones. What do you consider a vital part of healing for survivors?
So I'll breathe in and breathe out.
Breathing. We all need to breathe in and breathe out.
And I would say that a vital part
of
the healing journey is acceptance.
Acceptance that it happened.
Yeah. It's hard.
People deny.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard.
It's really hard.
It's difficult.
Yeah. That's why for example, when somebody is a victim of sexual violence, probably rape, and then she would want to wash off everything. No, this has not happened. This has not happened to me. No. I'm not accepting the fact that this has happened to me. So they tend to lay back and then have that in their subconscious. Because yes, I've interviewed quite a number of survivors, so they have that in their subconscious for a while. That it didn't happen.
It didn't happen to me.
But I think it's also very important to put that acceptance in context, so people don't take it out of context.
Okay.
Acceptance is part of a therapy type that is known as the acceptance and commitment to change therapy.
Okay.
And where acceptance comes up in that conversation is sometimes what is known as radical acceptance. The fact that acceptance does not mean that you are endorsing what happened to you. It doesn't mean that you see what has happened to you as right or something that you deserve.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's said that acceptance means to sit with it, to let it be beside you, to give it space. Largely because you also need to come to terms with the fact that there's pain in life. Pain is a normal part of life. However, suffering is a choice.
Yeah.
And so what acceptance, the best way that, survivors can sit with acceptance and come to that place is that they must acknowledge the pain, but they must respond with kindness.
Okay.
Kindness
to themselves.
To themselves.
Exactly. So usually when we talk about kindness, people talk about gifting kindness to others. But survivors must acknowledge the pain, respond with kindness. Kindness in your thoughts. Kindness with your talk. Kindness with your behavior towards yourself.
Generally, yeah.
Because it's typical for a lot of survivors to self-blame.
Oh, definitely. Self-blame, self-guilt, self-doubt, negative self-perception.
There's
General issues with the self. So, general issues with the
the
self.
self.
Yeah.
So acceptance.
Yes, for me, that's the ingredient I would call it.
The number one ingredient.
Yeah. Acceptance. Acknowledge the pain, but respond with kindness.
With kindness.
So bringing it to Lagos, can you share some communities that are supporting survivors in a positive way?
Well, sorry, I mean, I'm looking here and I'm saying, well.
Oh, really?
You have that right behind you. But there are, general groups, mental health support groups that have like toll-free numbers.
Yeah.
So for instance, the Asido Foundation has a toll-free number. We have a women's mental health directorate, which interestingly, I'm the head of that directorate as well.
Wow.
We have quite, a number. There's of course, it would be important to mention the Lagos Mind of the Lagos State, the mental health desk at the Lagos State Ministry of Health. There's the Psychiatrist Foundation. There are quite a number of organizations that can provide, some support. But again, to round that up, what I would say is we need concerted efforts. We need efforts that are not just in silos and everybody saying, I'm doing my own stuff, I'm doing my own stuff. We need to work together, especially as we're on different points of the continuum. And so where we are, what are we seeing? So when I sit in my own office and I have my patient on my couch, what I'm trying to do is educate you so that you know that this is abuse. When it gets out of hand and you're calling someone else is doing something else. So again, for me, it's let's, continue to do the work, but, put together efforts. Let the efforts be more concerted instead of having everyone work in silos. Together, everybody achieves more.
Together, everybody achieves more. I love this conversation. Anything mental health, I love it, And
we love you too.
And one message I have, for anybody listening, a survivor or not, is that seeking mental health services does not mean you are mad. We have this thing in Lagos, in Nigeria, in Africa.
It's a preconception.
Mental health services, psychosocial support. No, I don't need it. I'm fine. I'm fine.
My family.
So there's this stigma around seeking help when you have mental health challenges. So what can you say to people that have this sort of perspective about mental health?
Well, so clearly, for instance, when HIV came to town, one of the slogans then was that the stigma kills faster than the disease.
Yeah.
It's the same for mental health. The stigma is extremely detrimental, distressing, debilitating, and of course it affects the health-seeking behavior for individuals. And so we need to shift away from a culture of stigma. Of course, stigma thrives when there's silence. Stigma thrives when everybody pretends like ostrich with head in sand, like this is not my business, it doesn't concern me, it's not in my house, and all of that. And so we need to start being more realistic, understand that it can be anybody. It can happen to anyone, and that we all need each other, but we also all need to get the support, the help that we can at the right time. Most times when we talk about stigma, we talk about getting stigma from other people. But it would interest you to know that there's also self-stigma, where people, stigmatize their own selves. So again, education, awareness, empowerment, advocacy are the tools that we continue to talk about to support people on their journey, and of course limit stigma and discrimination to the barest minimum.
Thank you.
That was explosive yet
again. Yes.
Insight.
So to recap, a survivor needs awareness, readiness, and support from the right sources when it comes to their personal healing.
Definitely.
Right? And then one vital ingredient when it comes to healing is acceptance. Acceptance and then kindness
to oneself.
To self.
Yeah.
This is the take home for me. And I hope the viewers as well are taking something home. Accept yourself. Accept the experiences.
Be kind to yourself.
And then be kind to yourself.
That is being intentional. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Doctor.
You're very welcome.
It's been a pleasure, and I've really learned a lot today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. So thank
welcome.
you, viewers, for joining us on this episode. Let's talk about it, and see you next week.
Bye.